What
Yes,
up?
sir. What's good,
What's
man?
up?
How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Just sitting in my awesome backyard. Just hanging.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Wha- Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah,
Cool,
I like
cool.
the headphones and the mic work well. I always encourage that, but yeah, because sometimes the audio quality ain't so good, but you're perfect.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, I got the my tripod and the headphone. I got the headphone thing from you because I've seen people just do headphones, so I think that's like the best way to do it, I feel like. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. Yeah, we got
Yeah,
this.
so the tutdemic, man.
Yeah,
So
man.
what's up?
Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like when all this shit started happening, I was like, man, you know what? I just want to challenge myself and like, yeah, I want to like challenge myself and do a tut tutorial every day. And
Yeah.
yeah, it kind of worked out. It was like, but it actually has some like disadvantages where like, oh man, I need to figure out concept every day and make it actually cool. And then like it's actually work, man. You get to like think of the idea. You gotta like schedule a time to do it. You gotta like upload it and like right. It's a lot of work, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Devious says powerful stash. Yeah, it's a new look. I like it. But yeah, man, the Tudemic, it's been dope to see, man, how you break down the ideas and just being open about sharing it too. And the variations you can build with them.
Yeah, yeah. That's like kind of the plan is to show the idea and like, okay, I'm not just showing you just like an idea. I can show you an idea where you can move around and like use it in your own like arsenal, you know? So
Mm,
like you have different puzzles and shapes, you know, and like ideas that I don't have, but if you add the idea to your puzzles that you can move around with it, you know?
yeah, for
Definitely.
sure. I really like the slide one that you did that you go out and in. That one
Yeah.
is nice, man.
Yeah,
I
thanks,
really
man.
like that one.
Thanks.
Yeah. But yeah, let's tell people a little bit about yourself, like just for
Okay.
the people that don't know, because I'm gonna post this in on YouTube as well. So
Word. Okay.
yeah, tell people where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, so I'm originally from Seattle, and right now I'm living in Portland, Oregon, but I'm originally from Seattle. Um, and like grew up all over Seattle too. So like to make this short, like I grew up actually like in my teen years, I grew up on an isolated island called Bainbridge Island, which is like a ferry ride from downtown Seattle across the Puget Sound into an island. And so I kind of grew up in like kind of hippie suburb area. And so like I would have to take the ferry boat to get to the city to like learn popping and dance like almost every day. So yeah, and
Yeah,
so if I wanted to like connect with like the street dance culture, I would have to like catch a ferry boat and like go to Seattle. And that was like mid 2000s, like 2004, 2005, 2006.
yeah,
But after high school, I moved to the city and like got really into to the dance and like went out every day and like learned and stuff. But how I got into popping was through the rave scene. Yeah,
mm,
I was like in a culture of like, hey, let's sneak at our parents' house and like go into the city, catch a ferry boat, go into the city, and like that's when I actually like, I really had much like culture and I guess like any creativity other than skateboarding. And that was like, oh shit, this is some new culture. Like everyone's like kind of vibing. This is like this music. And like I saw like liquid dancing and tutting and some popping. I was like, dude, what is this shit? This is so cool. Like there's a huge circle of dancers and I saw this huge circle of dancers. I was like, dude, this is like, what is this? Saw like the most, back then to me was like the most amazing popping ever. But now it's just like, it's also just like watered down, Wiggles clones. And like, it was like whatever, But like back then it was like the coolest thing ever. And so I kind of like latched onto that culture and it took me out of the rave culture and out of the skateboarding and into like the street dance world. And like they showed me like, hey, this is where we practice at Jefferson Community Center, which is the south of Seattle. It's where the Massive Monkeys practice and all the breakers practice. And like they kind of like I just got into the street dance world like that.
Yeah.
And
So you had massive monkeys. Like I feel like Seattle's kind of known for breakers, you know.
yeah,
So who were you connecting with as far as popping? Like how'd you get introduced into that?
yeah. So like so thank goodness of the Mr. Wriggles forums, you know, like so there was like um I knew there were dancers in the rave scene, so I kept going to the rave scene to seek out these dancers because we didn't have like I didn't have like the Facebook profiles or Instagrams or like there wasn't much connection because there was the lack of the internet. You know, not the internet at that time was different. You know, this is
Mm.
like 2005, 2006, 2004, and so I had to search for these people, and I found them. They're like, "Hey, we'd like hit you up," but like, so once I found them they're like, hey, there's another like we practice with the breakers. We go out just to go out, just to dance, you know, and party, but like we practice it with these people and this kind of like scene. So that's when we to Jefferson Community Center is where and like there was not much popping on a Jefferson. There was like just a little bit like a small popping like circle, you know. But like that's where all the breakers hanging out, like the Massive Monkeys and Circle Fire. Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of the information you were getting back then was through the Wiggles forum. And did you just like follow? Well, the Wiggles forum was a forum, so it's kind of like yeah, it's just like people posting information, posting videos, and
Totally,
were you
totally.
able to ask questions and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, it also I didn't put this out there. We also had a friend, his name was Tutting Manny, and he had like he was never like a raver, but like he was like a popping friend. But he studied with Pop and Taco and like went to Philadelphia, which is like a workshop in Philadelphia, and like studied with the EBs. And like we meet up with him once in a while. He teaches like foundation of popping, EB popping, and also he was friends with Tetris, which is adds another story to the whole lineage of my
Yeah.
dance. But so we're grateful to have him. And then we had like the poppers that used to be ravers that got into popping, so we kind of had clashed together. So like he showed us like the true essence of EV popping, and we were like still freaking it out, the ravers, you know. And so we collaborated together. But we were these guys, the raver poppers that I was part of, like we were called My Design, by the way. We were super into like tutting and like geometry. And the reason that is on top of that, we had to put geometric in the picture too, because he was going back from LA to Seattle. And so
Ah.
he knew like Tetris and like followed Tetris and was friends with Tetris. So yeah, so we also got like tutting from Manny, and also got tutting from geometric, and then like the influence of what they had in Seattle, what we had in Seattle as well. Combine those two
Yeah,
together.
that's a big part of the history that you know, I think the newer generation doesn't really know. There's kind of like the old school and then there's now, but a lot of the people that say like the generation just before me, which is like the mid 2000s, early 2000s, even late 90s, were all about the rave scene. So it's
Yeah,
it seems like where people found each other. It was like
yeah,
the place where
totally.
people come to exchange ideas and so your first introduction into popping and stuff was just going to a rave.
Was going to a rave, right? It was like, oh shit, people are like getting down to this rave music. But my first actual like my first experience of like learning how to dance was a clip. Was it okay? So shout out to LPC and LP Eric. You ever heard of LPC?
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Every
yeah.
pop
Because
is
like,
collective.
yeah, yeah. So like, they were like, "Oh shit, here's these dancers that don't are doing this kind to this kind of music," and so this is what liquid dancing is like. Was really cool back then. So like, I studied LPC and like LP Eric, and like I just like started trying to do what they were doing with the flow, and then like was and then those hand kind of like figurations and hand styles kind of started molding into like what the the my friends or like the poppers are doing in Seattle. So I was like, oh, they're tutting. Well, I can like fuse it with the liquid, and like we're like liquiding and tutting. Yeah. And like what they were influenced by was the Wiggles, a tutting DVD or tutting VHS at the time.
So LPC was inspired by the tutting Wiggles was putting out.
Oh, sorry. Let me rephrase that. So like LPC, uh, they were just doing their own thing, but like the friends, the raver poppers in Seattle,
Oh, okay.
they were inspired by Wiggles Tuts.
Got
Wiggles,
you.
yeah.
Okay. So now you in Seattle are getting the blend of, well, you got Tetris, you got Geo,
Yep.
you got Tutting Manny, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
the influence from Wiggles and LPC.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It sounds like a pretty magical blend, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, I mean, that Wiggles, people would just talk about that. I mean, Wiggles DVDs and VHS tapes were super popular within like the poppers at the time. So like, I mean, everyone's trying to like buy Wiggles at the time. I don't want to say buy, but like at least like do cool shit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. So LPC, the Liquid Pop Collective, and those guys were mainly Midwesterners, right?
yeah. The
And
East
East
Coast.
Coasters. Yeah. So then LPC, because I believe wasn't Eric is from Chicago, right? I believe.
Is he?
Uh,
Oh, I don't know. I didn't meet those guys till like later, like I don't know, 2000, like 11, 2012. I
mm,
still see Fu Manchu once a year.
yeah, Fu Manchu, yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
So
I
that
got the pleasure of meeting him recently at like a little underground rave that I went to in LA. And my friend, she brings me over and she's like, I don't know if you know who Sky is.
I know Sky. Yeah, Sky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we go way back. Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. I figure, man, it's a small world, you
it
know.
is.
But Sky pulls me over, and I don't like me and Sky didn't know each other that well at that time, you know. And she's like, "Oh, I want to introduce you to somebody. They're really dope." And I was like, "Oh, okay, word." And I was skeptical, you know. And she's
Right.
like, "Yeah, he's like a crazy waver." And I was like, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Well, like just like if you name him, I'll know him. You know, it's that type of world, you know." And she's like, "Oh, he was part of this LPC," and I was like, "Oh shit, what?" And so this is recently, you know, like maybe
Oh,
a year
word.
ago or something. And she brings me over. She's like, "Yeah, this is Fu Manchu," and I was like, "Oh shit, what's up, man?" Like, nice to meet you, bro. I've heard your name over the years through multiple sources. So it was a real trip to really meet him and kind of for the short amount of time that we were getting down to kind of pick his brain. I was like, you know, what do you consider liquid and this type of stuff? Because you know we're kind of always concerned with defining things, but for
Yeah.
me, I like to collect the perspectives of how people think about movement. So his idea of liquid was like a lot of people will say like liquid is like the hand flow, and he would say, or he told me at that time, which was more of like a continuous connection that doesn't stop. So it doesn't have to be necessarily in your hands. It can be through waves and like things like that. And so when I saw him getting down, I was like, oh shit! Like I felt like I recognized like you know through all these similar influences and they maybe trickled down, but I felt like we were doing a lot of similar stuff in the sense of like liquid tuts and
Yeah,
our
yeah, for
ideas.
sure.
Yeah, it was a trip, man. So that's crazy. So when it came down to it, you moved to Seattle and this is like 2007 or something, or
So yeah, so let's see. I graduated high school in 2006. I was getting really into popping because I discovered raving at 2004. Also
mm,
discovered dance. Discovered popping in 2005. Then got into popping. So like, so I was like hanging out with My Design. I got into the crew, which is like my buddy Sean. Like, I mean, I'm gonna pull out these names just for them. So like Sean, Sam I Am, who's like an amazing like tutter, geometric, Manny, this guy named Tall Jeff, and like we were just like a core crew, and just like going out partying and just dancing. We were not like into battles or whatever. So, but yeah, to keep going this with the story, and so 2006 after high school, uh, just I've been training with them, whatever, hanging out with them. After high school, I moved into Seattle and like lived in Seattle for a couple of years.
mm,
After I started traveling around the country to because like there's a moment like so this is where like I started to get to like get my name out there is because I started traveling. So I lived in the Bay for a little bit. That's when I linked up with like Mikey Disco and Boy Wonder and Vent, Mikey P. And so like they taught me how to like the dance and whatnot, and I stayed had a connection with LA too. So yeah.
Yeah. So when you were first getting down in those raves, what was the kind of mentality as far as like, because it wasn't kind of a competitive nature, right? It was more
No,
of
no.
like sharing a vibe.
Totally, yeah. Like I had no sense of competition. I was just like there to just get down. And yeah, we sometimes we're even ciphering. We're just like, I'll go do it to this, other stage, or like we'll be like next to each other, not even ciphering, just like dancing. It was so weird. It was like it's a weird thing to think about right now because we weren't really ciphering. We were just kind of just getting down our own, in our own zone. But there's
Yeah.
times we would get, but there's times we would cipher and whatnot. But like it's just yeah, it was a different kind of I guess energy we were just
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. And were you guys like sharing? I mean, you guys were kind of in your own zone, but were there times where you were like, yo, check this out. I got this
Yeah,
idea.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. We definitely nerd out too, because like especially we're tutters, we're like, yo, check out this concept, and like these little
Yeah.
intricate things. Oh,
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that feels like that was the vibe, and that's kind of what was motivating the innovation as well, huh? Like it was kind of like, oh, I just want to create some concept to share with my friends.
totally. Yeah, yeah. And like we also like nerd out even outside of clubs. We're like in the car, at their house. So like, we just always constantly be talking and doing dance. It's just like
Yeah.
it was a lifestyle, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's sick, man. So
Yeah.
then, like back then, would you say that who do you think was like really advanced tutting back then that was always kind of like inspiring you or kind of like blowing your mind with like some next level shit?
Yeah, so yeah, good question. So before going to LA in 2006, my first event, B-Boy Summit '06. Before I saw Tetris, it was always Tut and Manny, and it was it was Tut and Manny, Sean, Sam, and Gio. And like those guys are always just like I was young too, but they're like always had the next level tuts. I'm like, wow, like how is this possible? How can I can't even fathom how you do that. And
Uh-huh.
then like I get to like learn it from them whenever. Then when I first met Tetris, I was like, fuck, dude. Oh my god, dude, Tetris, like that's when I figured out like he was fusing. Oh yeah, shout out to Drew. He like helped me like Drew a graph. He was friends with Tetris, but he like helped me. Like we had a connection on like the forum and SoulSeek. SoulSeek is like a internet share,
Mhm.
video share. But he helped me like connect with Tetris. I had to get the place I had a place to stay with him. But anyways, yeah. So with Tetris, when I saw him, he's like, "Oh, it's possible to like fuse waving and tutting and popping together." There's like,
Yeah.
wow. There's like, because we were just straight tutting. We're like, we're just gonna be tutting all night long, whatever, and do some Fresnos and like try to twisto flex. But like, he was like waving into a tuts and then gliding and then popping, hitting. I was like, what is this? Who is this guy? This guy's unreal, man. So I was like
Yeah.
super blown. And so after that, I was like, Tetris is like number one, dude. He's like the
Yeah.
number one dancer in my eyes.
And that
Yeah,
that was 2000. When did you
six,
first meet him? Six?
2006. Yeah,
And that was in LA?
I was in LA. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, man. Tetris was one of my first inspirations as well. I came in 2009 and he was still coming to Homeland. And yeah, just to see his flow, like the smoothness of his waves and then like straight into tuts, it was just like unfathomable.
right.
It's just like I remember we'd be at the dojo and you know I remember one night and yeah, I was stoned, right? And I was like, I remember him just there was a light shining from the back porch at the dojo, and I was just sitting there and I was just watching him design like these fractal geometric shapes at like different speeds and sometimes so fast that I couldn't like I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
How do you even like computate at that speed, you know?
Totally, totally. I agree. I totally agree. Um,
Yeah.
and after that, I was like, my style just totally changed. And like, what he did was like, everything's fucking possible. Rules are breaking,
Mm.
dude. You can't just do it straight, do tutting. You can do tutting and waving, animation, like these hard stops. Like, it was just like, all right. And like, then like actually meeting Todd, Pop and Todd, and like Wave-O-Matic, I was like, meeting these guys, like, okay, Todd is not, because back then I was like, I pictured Todd as like ABM. He was ABM crew, had the VHS tape. He was like boogalooing. He was like looked really into popping EB style. But when he came to Seattle, he was like roboting and bopping and waving. I was like, what? It's not the Todd I know. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. I'm super inspired. Like, he is so robotic and so like, because back then was popping was so EB like driven. You had to do EB style to be a popper, you know? That was the
Mm.
time, you know? And so when I saw Todd, I was like, wow, I'm so fucking inspired. You can be so unreal and so cool. Like, I want to be like that guy. And then seeing Tetris, like, if he's doing that and that's possible and so much cooler than EB style, I'm gonna fucking do that. And then meeting Wavo-Wavo's like, give me like, that's back in the Wavo lab days. So it's like, you know, watching everyone dance in the Wavo lab, and he was like, everything is possible. You do what feels good, man. Like, keep, you know, I was like, wow, this is what I need to be doing right now, is doing my own thing, sticking to what's real. Is like tutting and waving, animation, being like unreal. You know, what makes popping cool is being unreal, you know? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. That, I think that's what I was inspired by as well in the beginning, was just the magic. You know, I
the
didn't really
magic.
understand, like dance per se. You know, I didn't really understand, like grooving was cool, but it was like, yeah, you know, I don't need to groove like super high level to dance with a girl. It was just kind of like it didn't make sense to me to learn any other style besides an illusionary style, because
Right.
for me it was, I saw something like a tick walk, and I was just like, what, that, like, what is even happening in the body that is allowing that illusion to take place? And then I didn't really get into tutting till later because I was just a fan of it. You know, I was just like, holy shit, man. It just, I thought these guys were just like anomaly geniuses that, you know, and they are, and you are. But the thing is there's a process to that learning where you get the basics and you slowly ingrain them into muscle memory, and then eventually you can start to create these crazy combos and patterns.
Totally.
Yeah. So then with Tetris, you saw that. I think it's so beautiful, man. Like, I feel like this is what you know, I think there's more of it nowadays, but these people were the first, I feel like the first people to really preach that, at least in our community, like our immediate community, which was like, yo, be yourself, be free. Like Wavo was a huge
Yep.
promoter of that, right?
Absolutely.
And he was one of the first people that, like, you know, welcomed me in and was like, yo, yeah, you could wave all the way down to your toes and you just keep following
Totally.
it. And
Yep.
it's like, so he was always kind of showing us what's possible. And then these other guys like Geo and Tetris and were other people that were just not concerned with the trend.
Yeah. And you know, yeah, it's crazy because like I was so young into popping, and so like that back then I was like, oh, I it's like you kind of get brainwashed of like, oh, this is what popping is. I had to learn from the masters because they travel around the world, and like, and they say they started it, and like I have to listen to that and dress up like what they do and do what they're doing. And then like going to LA was like meeting Todd first, and then going to LA is like, wow, it's like it's almost, it's part of growth is to like to travel and to seek out and like see it in person and to
Yeah.
believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. This idea of culture, you know, being like, I think I came up in the I started at when the wars were going, like, you know,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
like
totally.
2009 was like, that's when the resistance started to happen, and I had to like, I walked into drama and had to choose sides or something, you know. But the idea that culture is somehow defined by dictators is not correct. You know, it's not the way culture works, I don't think.
No.
Um, Culture is a like a collective of people that collectively decide what they are. And I think what was cool though is that the whole thing is you can have people on all sides of the spectrum. You have like the electric boogaloos at the time, and then you had like all the illusionary kind of ravers and roboters and tutters, and they were all part of one culture, and was a culture of friction. But uh, you know, one might deny that they are actually doing the right thing, and the other people are not really concerned with it. So it's kind of hard because you have to think like, okay, when am I culturally appropriating something, right? Or when am I going outside my bounds? But when enough people, enough individuals unite under one philosophy of movement, it starts to become part of the culture, I think.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you said was beautiful.
Because like the finger tutting and all that sort of stuff, like you know, that wouldn't have fallen under the umbrella of popping, especially in the
Mm.
beginning, right?
No, no, yeah. I mean, we used to get made fun of for finger tutting. I feel like back when like, yo, so I didn't even put this out there. Like when the whole like EB kind of trend days, where like you have to if you're not doing EB style, you're not popping trend days. That was like, and I was tutting. We would get made fun of, like, or people would look down upon like finger tutting, and like that was not a popping style, and that actually like was super like weird to me. I was like, dude, I'm like at least dancing. I'm trying to do something which is really cool. You're calling that popping? It makes you super. Being that at a young age was super confusing and kind of like hurtful, you know, and like directs me to like, oh, this is what has to be done, you know. But this is like my true love and my creativity I really feel for. And you tell me that's not the right thing to do. That's kind of fucked up in a way, you
Yeah.
know. And I feel like at where we're at now with like tutting and like I think it's a beautiful thing. It's become more bigger than I ever could have fathomed. Like tutting his own fucking dance style now. I thought it was a popping style, but now it's his own dance style. Like
Yeah.
you see people from all over the world, like every day posting like them, like, you know, tutting the camera or doing tutting challenges, finger tutting. Like the finger circus guys are just absolutely insane with their shapes. Intricate is so fucking mind blowing, dude.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Shout out to Inchkid. I was just on with
Yeah. Oh,
him.
yeah.
He's so crazy. And like all the Bay Area tutters, man, we're just on a whole nother level too, right? Um, yeah, I think the it's crazy how tutting became a part of multiple styles, right? Like
Yeah.
tutting wasn't owned by popping. It became something of a tool, right? At the end of the day, all these movement things that we do is part of our tool bag. So tutting became a way of expression of ideas, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have people like flexors, you have people like turfers, you know, you have now you have like you can maybe call tutting its own style, right? Because there's people that are tutting all around the world that they don't pop with it,
No.
and it's not turfing and it's not flexing, so they're just tutting. And you look at India and like the evolution of TikTok, right? Uh, there's like celebrities that are doing finger tut combos. There's people like just like pretty girls with like millions of followers that are doing tut combos. It's like it's so strange to me, man.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it. I don't even know where it's gonna go anymore. I thought tutting was gonna be a dead style. Like I really honestly thought it was gonna be
Wow.
a dying style. Like
When
10,
did you think? When did you think that?
when I started traveling and started learning other styles of dance. So like I started traveling in 2009, 2010, and I was like I was not interested in tutting anymore. even though I was still doing it, but I was like trying to like learn how to dance because I was like strictly popping and tutting, and there was a moment where I was like not moving my feet. I had no groove. I had like I couldn't even breathe when I was dancing. I was like doing these things that like I needed to work on, you know. And so I was
And
really
was that voice, was that coming from you, or was that being told
I was
to
being
by?
told, oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah, definitely. And I believed it. I was like, yo, you're right. Like it's like you're being restricted, and like so I went to the Bay like in 09, 010, like I was being Mikey Disco and Boy Wonder, an event, and the others were like helping me move my feet, being on beat with the rhythm, like show how to move my just literally how to dance,
yeah.
basically.
Did you run into turfers at that time in the Bay?
I used to watch this guy Retro and his like crew. You remember Retro?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, had like the red flat top. Yeah, I used to watch him. Shit, was that on Market Street every day, almost every day.
Crazy.
It was him and
Yeah.
Harry Berry. I would see like a Retro beat with this like little like turf crew, or it
Uh-huh.
was small, and then I would see Harry Berry like do his robot.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. So was Retro wasn't like, I mean, he was doing tuts, but he wasn't like that wasn't he wasn't the top upper echelon of tuts for the Bay.
no, I wasn't really. Didn't even link up with any turfers or had any.
Yeah. See,
Didn't
that's so
didn't have any
crazy,
business with
man.
them.
I was just like on with Intricate, and we're talking about he's around during that time. He started like 2006 or 7, right?
Hmm.
And so there was so many good battles at that same time. You were in the Bay, you know, like maybe the first rock paper scissors battles, all those
Oh shit.
crazy turfing, like Bay versus NY. So like you were right there in the midst, but you were part of another community where you were with Mikey Disco and Boy Wonder,
Hmm.
where you know, there's a certain narrative that's like kind of being pushed onto you as far as your like what you should be doing and what you shouldn't, you know,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy to think that, you know, right right down the street, basically, there's a world that like that was your world.
Yeah, and I had no idea it was happening. I didn't even know it was like that was such a big scene or its own thing because I was like not, I guess, educated or new. It was weird.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
I just know now I know turfing and flexing. It's been around for so much longer than I ever thought to imagine. It has its own history and culture and dancers and like leaders and yeah, I mean, I wish I knew back then, really.
Yeah. Yeah, but there just wasn't much I mean, even if you did know, you know, you would have it probably would have been said that it wasn't like you know, it was just like kids or something or you know,
Yeah.
the popping world obviously didn't know it was happening or didn't accept it in the way that it was going down. Which is unfortunate. But at the
True.
same time, like I think the beauty, I don't know, maybe you can shed light on this. The feeling as far as when they were like people were telling you how things should be done, did it motivate you or did it hinder you, you feel?
Uh, uh, can you clarify that, like about like style or like tut? Or what do you
Yeah,
mean?
like because for me, I mean, you're one of the best tutters. Like, I mean, you're the one that like projected all these ideas into the world and then
Hmm.
like were those some of those ideas birthed out of the struggle?
You know what? Those ideas, I never really. Okay, honestly, I never ever didn't feel like the only thing I struggled was like when I had my car accident and I had to like I just really passionately wanted to dance, so I had to like really know how to walk, and like that's my struggle right there was to like to get back on my feet and to dance. And then I didn't share that earlier, and but a lot of so all those ideas that like I made or created, they what we're all in this lineage. I feel like geometric, Tetris, like the Moon Runners, you know, like Sam, Manny, Sean, like the Seattle days. Those are all our movement, you know. I would always mention it in my previous tutorials, like, or ever mention like these are not, those are, even though those are like the way I did it was my way I did it, but like those those concepts and moves are ours. We all have done it in a way. We're like, people put these concepts in the I guess I'm really showed it this way, you know, but like I feel like we are in this lineage. We all done these moves together before somehow,
Yeah,
you
like
know.
people like Steen's been doing it forever, you know.
Yeah, Steen's in the lineage too, you know. And so like we're
Yeah,
in this
for
like
sure.
in this like little like bubble, in this bubble's expanding. Like I feel like you're in it too, you know, because like we're in the same community and same scene, you know, the same
Yeah,
lineage, you know. And
yeah.
like I seen what you do, I'm like, oh yeah, I can definitely like I know I this is like because when I see like the turfers do it or the flexors, I'm like, I don't know how you guys do that. How is that possible? But
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
see
yeah.
you do it, and like, oh yeah, I can see where like I see the influence, you know.
Yeah, yeah, you can see it's like it, I've had some similar experiences, like even with like students of Tableau and stuff, and like we've never met before, but then I meet them, and it feels like we're cousins or related in the sense that, oh shit, like I know where that's from, you know? And yeah, so like you have people like Steen, Junior Boogaloo. Those were like some of I think the older cats that really laid a foundation for people like even Tetris and Jay Smooth and
Hmm, hmm.
you, Graph, Geo. These are all guys like I feel like there was a group in the early 2000s which was like you, Tetris, Geo, Graph, and am I missing somebody there? Jigsaw was another one.
Jigsaw was another one.
Yeah.
Confusion, confusion
Oh
was
yeah, Confusion. Cannot forget Confusion for
yeah,
sure.
confusion was part of the architects, you know, with Tetrism, and like it was
Yeah.
crazy because like back then we're like, who is Tetris? There's only a few clips of him. Like, who is Confusion? Like everyone like was ranting on them how they're the most underrated dancers in the world, you know, and like they wouldn't want to share anything. This is back then where like sharing's not allowed, like because you don't want nobody to steal your shit. And now
Yeah.
everyone's sharing everything, you know. And
Yeah,
get
yeah. Oh yeah. Devious said Tommy Boy as well.
oh
That's for
yeah,
sure.
that is
Yeah,
so.
so Bay Area, you got people like Money B, you
That's
got
right.
Tommy Boy, and those guys like with the Flowmation and the kind of threads and yeah, man, because Tommy Boy kind of had a B-boy energy to him because that era kind of even Bionic, right? Like
Right.
Bionic was another one. I think these guys laid down some of the foundation for turfers. I'm guessing, you know, because turfing goes back. What Intricate says it goes back into the '90s, but you know, I'm guessing some of that connection comes back to the origins of popping, you know, and is
Yeah.
passed down. Uh, but yeah, it's interesting how little things just keep building on each other. And I like what you said, how we all kind of collectively own it. Like we all have a piece of this real estate, you know, it's these ideas are, I always say it's like this idea realm that we're all like adding to, like, as we practice and as we cipher, there's like we're like the sun hitting the water, and the ideas evaporate into a cloud, and then that cloud is going to decide which lightning bolt is going to strike back
Nice.
down, you know. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like this, like it could hit any of us because we all have this similar language that we're speaking.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I like how you said that.
And then there's like Intricate, right, where he's you know, I was so curious talking to him because I felt the same way when I see them, like, shit, man, how did they think of that shit? You know, like,
Yeah.
because it wasn't, they don't have the same foundation as us.
No,
Um,
no, no.
so, and that's why I'm like always like, okay, when I watch people move, I'm like, okay, what are they trying to say, and what are they thinking about? You know?
Totally. And it's like different flow, different like it's just a whole different style. It's like a whole different like way of doing tutting. And that's how like when I first time saw the Moonrunners, I was just so blown away from all of them. Like Icy, I was like melting every time I saw Icy. Like how do you how the fuck do you think that way? You know? Snaps
Yeah.
is like bone breaking, and Snaps like doing all these different concepts, and it was in like Nye's like doing these weird finger tells. I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, and
Yeah.
like, and it was just like, this is like, I fucking love this dance, you know? Like this,
Yeah.
there's no end, it's endless, you know? It's just
Yeah.
endless ideas. I thought like Tetris is the because I call this more like the Tetra geometry junior booga. We're all like fixed on like grids, you know? But they're
Yeah.
like more like magicians where like everything is so like physics and chemistry to them. There is no like grids.
Yeah, yeah, that's what Intricate was saying. He was saying that, like our system isn't based off of a grid, so it was always about like, well, it's like storytelling,
Right.
and by talking to him, what I realized too is like they're saying something, like it's a conversation, but their ideas were created in a world where they were like, okay, I'm gonna make it for this person or to battle in this type of way. And so when they do it, they're like, man, that ain't shit, blah, 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 shoo, dang. Like
Right.
there's this certain like conversation they're having with the tuts, like, oh, I'm gonna show you this, and then oh, you see it over there, boop, and then I'm gonna catch it over here and pull it up. So it's like it's really it's really dope because it's more of a language rather than a system.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more of a language, not a system. Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, because imagine if you're trying to like speak a language with your tuts and you're like, yo, I'm gonna go click click and then I'm gonna go kink kink boom boom and then I'm gonna pull it over here and it's got weight and it pulls me, like
Right.
it's like creating this it's creating a story. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's yeah. And then the thing is like it's what's really exciting is like there's a whole different concepts and like it's another history and book of like of concepts and styles that like we never discover, which is only within this style and scene of turfing or flexing, you know.
Yeah. Who first like presented the idea of the grid?
The grid, good question. You know, um I feel like when I started first, I don't want to say I did. I feel like as I always, so it's funny because like I don't want to say like I did or like I want to say we did, like me and Gio and Sam and influence of like of our like the crew, like we were always stuck with this like grid system. But when I taught a workshop in Chicago, I was like, yeah, these boxes are all in this graph paper grid, and Kai was there, Kai Societies.
Yeah.
He's the one that had like the GIF kind of grid system with all the arms and whatnot. And he just, and like, I feel like I inspired him that or influenced him to
Oh,
show him
okay.
the grid. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm sure people have done it before, but like, I think I've been like sharing it, after like, 2009, 2010. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it's always that's something I always kind of teach for people that are first starting tutting too, just getting them to create these boxes,
Hmm.
the like whether it's like the four up top or the four down low
Right.
or building it three-dimensionally on the horizontal plane. Um, and then also you have like the bigger ones off to the side that you can
Right.
do. Uh, but then there's also the idea, like I'm always curious to try and figure out, well, there's always all these different systems on how to teach people. And I think um, how people's brains work, right? And to drill, I think the positioning and work on wrist mobility, I think it's really important to teach that grid. But then you see people like Intricate and stuff, and then their foundation had nothing to do with the grid. So sometimes I wonder where is the best starting point? as far as
Mm.
teaching. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
yeah.
good question because I always projected the grid as like, all right, like think of like this is the system. This is like everywhere is a box. You know, you can go in these boxes. I think like we're intricate in like I feel like he's more like searching for boxes and angles. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't I
yeah.
don't like I don't I'm not sure. I'm just theorizing because he's like pushing moving things, going these awkward positions and like really and so I feel like maybe he's like searching for these shapes and boxes and like I don't know. So
Yeah.
it's a good question. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know. It's hard to.
I think I think also just by how we define things in our mind, like when we think about angles, or like angles is a more wide, broad term than tutting, right? And then
Yeah.
tutting we kind of associate with popping, but then like you go to flexing and you go with just the word connecting, and
Hmm.
like the idea of okay, connecting. It's like, okay, we're just going to work on connecting this stuff, And
Totally.
then I think it makes you move a little different as well.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know because like when I see like the turfers or flexors, they're like I feel like is they're connecting and they're searching for like a shape and they got another shape and their blow is like this amazing massive side angle shape, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like they're like shape shifting and like searching for these shapes. Like I have the best shape, or I have this crazy angle shape over here. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I see. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
it's interesting how different people see it, and they also have like this kind of a formula in the sense of like a setup and a blow up. They know when they got something, and it's like bam
Totally,
in your face. It's
absolutely.
like uh, the thing I like about the grid, and I like about like with what you do is these systems. If you drill them, there's so much freedom within the systems that exist, because you can break them when you combine two different systems. It's like then there's another infinite amount of combos. So you take one system and say already you got like 32 combos.
Yeah,
And then you can break down that 32 set into, you know, 64 by just adding another uh like system inside of it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And then the thing about the grid is like you can always go to these shapes or the boxes. Like let's say you're like dancing, and like, oh yeah, I want to go to this shape, or I can go to this shape and start a concept, you know, or I can just
Yeah.
go here because that's where that's where the box is, you know, the grid.
Yeah, or you could twist into it, you could
Yeah,
wave into it, you
totally.
could boogaloo into it, you could drop into it. You could do it at this angle. You could change like the size of it, the speed that you do it, the direction that you do it. There's like already, if you take one basic system and you put size, speed, and direction in it, you already have like an infinite amount of combos.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So man, the tutting world. So at one point you thought it was gonna be dead. It was gonna be a dying style. And this is when you were starting to travel, right?
Yeah, starting to travel. So it was like 2009, 2010. Yeah, because I just was not seeing a lot of it in the popping, and like, um, I could be wrong, but in my honest opinion, I thought like there's only some people doing it, and then then the finger tutting started getting popular. Like this is like mad. Like back then, I thought it was. I mean, I was a whole different mindset too, and I didn't think it was going to survive. I don't think any of it was going to survive. Um, I don't know. Then I guess I guess what happened was like the uprising of like turfing and flexing, and it like in finger circus and moonrunners too. Like I feel like moonrunners help. You know, they like it just became they kind of was they saved it maybe.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there was definitely.
They made it cool. I think the music too made it cool too. It's like, because flexing music, turfing music, hyphy movement, and like I think it was helpful too.
Yeah, to make it digestible
Right.
and yeah, fun. Yeah, it's crazy to me because at the time where you felt like the most resistance, where you felt like it was going to end, it was actually being at its high point in another place, in another culture. Uh,
Totally.
yeah, so like there was people like yourself. I'm sure there was tons of people that felt that same way as you or liked tutting, but had no place to go. And you stuck with the popping culture, and then you found the Moonrunners. And yeah, man, like, so when did you meet them? When was that?
So I've so I see like so this is this is a cool story. I hope they don't mind me sharing the story, but because it's super inspiring and cool. But so when I was living in Seattle, mid 2009, 2006, I was posting some like clips of like, this is when YouTube first came out, and so like I
Mm.
was like, okay, I'm gonna share like a solo, like I'm gonna share videos of like me on YouTube, and so like I back then I was super into glitch music. Thanks to Graph in LA, that like he was super into like glitch music, like Glitch Mob and Edit, and this is before pop, like the dancers discovered Edit and Glitch Mob. So I was dancing to Edit and Glitch music, and so like there's a clip I like, it was in my room, or actually in my roommate's room, and he had the Edit Crying for Pros and No Reason album, and then he like, hey, I'm gonna record you dance. So like basically we just smoked a bunch of weed, and he put the record on. I started dancing, and so I was like doing a bunch of tuts, a little finger tutting, whatever, and that music with the dancing, uh Icy discovered it, and he was like, yo, this shit's so inspiring, like this is so super dope, and
Yeah.
like hit me on the comments, whatever. And then years later, I think he was kept hitting me up, whatever, but like years later he tells me like, hey, your style in that music like inspired like the whole crew, the Moonrunners crew. And so
Wow.
then I visited them, one of their Moonrunners Area 51 battles, where Steen and Ryan and Rashad were judging, and I was like, this is a perfect time to like go to Toronto and meet the Moonrunners and like see Steen and Future and Rashad. And so I think it was like 2013, 2014. I don't remember, but like it was around that time. And so when I saw the Moonrunners, like seeing Icy, Snap, Sean, Connects, I was like, these guys are like so next level tutting. Like this is an absolute unreal, and like I want to be part of their like their crew. This is like they're sucking. They inspired me, so it's
Yeah.
crazy. So like being in the same place where like, okay, we're seeing Rashad, Future, and Steen, they inspired me, you know, and then being in and also being in the same room where like I inspired the Moonrunners. It's like a full circle right there. It's a lineage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the next time I visited Toronto, I think it was a year after that, it was like they put me down.
And so
Yeah.
that was 2009.
That was, they saw the clip in 2008, and then later on when I first visited them was like 2013 for the Area 51 event.
Oh, okay. And that's when they brought Steen, Rashad,
Yeah,
and Puka out.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Wow. I wonder if I'm trying to remember the first time I met them. It must have been around that same time, actually. Around that same time I met them. But I had known about them already, but I had met them. But I went up to Montreal, and they were judging a battle up in the mountains at a ski resort.
Oh,
And
what?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
and Monster Pop was there, Boom Beast was there, and they were the judges. So, and then I partied with them after, and then there was some. Sean thought he could outdrink me, and that was not a good choice.
Oh shit.
That was not a good choice, man. I was like, man, I got a lot more meat on my bones, you know. I'm a little bit taller too, so.
Uh,
But yeah, it was. When I met them too, I felt like, this is before I was really tutting. Um, this was before I was tutting, and I I always admired tutting, and when I met them there, actually it wasn't long after that, but Icy and Snap came to stay with me in LA.
Oh, dope.
And so they were sleeping on the couch, and this is when I was living out in Northridge, and yeah, Snap passed out when he got to my crib, and then uh, Icy was still up, and we were just talking and stuff, and he's like, oh, yo, you want to get down, like, and just throw some tuts? And I was like, oh yeah, word. Let's. I'm terrible though, like I got like nothing, and he's like, oh, no worries, man. We'll just play around, and that was the first time I tried to freestyle tuts, like. And I had been around tuts with like Devious and Tetris, and I was always watching them, but never really could throw them like that. And yeah, man. So then that was kind of the beginning of the journey, was being around those guys.
Wow, that's fucking cool.
Yeah,
Man.
man.
And
The
your shit's so fucking good, dude. Like I feel like, oh, I don't know. I feel like you're underrated. I don't know. I feel like you're one of the best out there, honestly.
Man,
Like, yeah,
I don't know, man. Yeah, I was tripping. I was tripping out, man. Yeah. I just, I just practice, man. There's this thing, like, a lot of people are sending me online battles, and telling me I got to do it, or like there's a battle, hey, you got to join. And for me, it's like, I love to practice, man.
yeah,
Honestly, like, I love practicing every day for the sake of practicing. I don't even practice with anything in mind anymore, like I just practice to practice, and it's like a space for me to think. So, but I was with Junior Boogaloo recently, man, and man, he said something to me, and I was like, what? No way. He's like, I put you up there with the best, like top 5 tutters. I was like, what the fuck?
what? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
dude, that was
That's
like,
what's up.
oh, I was like, nah, 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 nah. You just being nice right now, bro. I was like, maybe I know, maybe I
Whoa.
know, maybe I know, maybe I know too many good tutters. I think that's why. I put myself at the, I put myself at the bottom of the heap of my friends.
Yeah.
For
Wow,
me,
dude.
I'm like, I look up to all you guys, so it's a trip. I hope to get Junior Boogaloo on this at some point too, to
Yeah, that'd be
really put his
nice.
in. Yeah, because he's inspired so many people, and his way of thinking of tuts is got to be somewhat different too, Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, as far as top 5, nah. I'm like, dude, you're just trying to float. See, sometimes I think a good tactic of a teacher. Oh, this is about to end, so I'll restart another one. But
Okay, okay.
yeah, it's a tactic of a teacher to lead somebody like that too. I think where you're like a mentor is like, they go, man, you're one of the best at this, and it's like it's almost like manifesting it on you. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna restart another one real quick, bro.
Okay, cool, cool.
All right.